Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint. Manipur, a concerning situation for every Indian. Every Indian. Let me just say that very clearly. You may be a Kuki, you may be a Maithi, you may be a Punjabi, you may be a Tamilian, or somebody staying in Goa. This is a situation that impacts every one of us. The first message that I'd need to say before I introduce our wonderful speaker, Lieutenant General shokin Chauhan, is a message of peace, is a message of reconciliation and letting cooler heads prevail. There is no gain for anyone, even if one wins such a battle. What we need to do is sit down, get our head straight, talk, and close the issue. First of all, sir, thank you so much for the previous talk. It resonated in many circles. Of course, there was literally community violence on my my comments as well. That was well expected because at the end of it, this is a very sensitive situation. I'd like to make it very clear: we don't stand by any one or any both. We stand by both, and we stand by the message of peace. Thank you so much, sir, once again joining me and to share your knowledge and your expertise about that region.
Thank you, Adi. More than knowledge and expertise, I share my emotions. Manipur has been a part of my life, a part of my heart, and I have spent many years there. The people of Manipur are very wonderful people, really wonderful people, whether they are from the hills or whether they are from the valley of Imphal. I have a very close, almost a relationship of a brother, my own unit officer, who is also in Manipur, who's also a Manipuri. And I'm absolutely devastated by the violence that has hit Manipur. I take your mind back to 1988, 89, when we were posted in Manipur, in Ukhrul, and 9 of my soldiers died there, protecting the rights of the people to live a life of peace. And I've been there as the chairman of this of the ceasefire monitoring group based in Nagaland, but dealing with a very important group of Manipur, the NSC and IM. And I have known them to be, and I've known all Manipuri people to be, very honorable people. So, just as you said, we are here to give a message of peace. We are here to say that all Indians are with you. We're here to say that let's forget about all these problems and to get together and to go back so that Manipur can again come back as it was envisioned, the city of jewels. Over to you, Adi.
Sir, a lot of people have tried to simplify this battle or this configuration that is happening, this difference of opinion, this violence that is taking place within Manipur. Everybody said, oh, this is one community versus the other. Some people have said, oh, this is political. Oh, this is to do with this. Oh, this is to do with that. This is to do with this. Everybody's come up with a singular answer. In my opinion, there is no single answer to something like this. There is some sort of a situation that was obviously there, which flared up. And I'd ask you, what is your opinion about three, four major factors that you would think why this happened? And secondly, there are also many people who'd like to put a little fuel in the fire. What do you say to this?
I totally agree with you, Adi. I've spent so many years there. I'm aware that underlying it all is a combination of many factors. And I've seen it in most of the violence affected areas of our country. That violence doesn't erupt on a single issue. It erupts after a combination of a number of factors are put to fire by a large number of unscrupulous people. So let's just go to each one of these issues that I feel have a bearing on the final fire that was lit. The first is part community suspicion. There's always been a suspicion on different communities in the state of Manipur. There's always been an inter-community suspicion. That's the first thing. So whether it is the Maithi, the Naga communities in the hills, or the Kuki communities in the foothills, that is one part of a suspicion that was there in the people minds of the people, but it was to a large extent getting much better. I must tell you that wherever we are in Delhi or in Mumbai or in Pune or Bangalore, one would meet with so many of the young uh, Manipuris who are in so many of the industries in these cities, especially the soft skill industries. And one would talk to them, they'd always say that I am a Manipuri. I'm from Churachandpur, I'm a Manipuri. I'm from Imphal, I'm a Manipuri. I'm from Senapati, I'm a Manipuri. So they were identifying themselves from the state of Manipur, though they were from different communities. That meant that the younger uh, population of Manipur did not carry the same burden of the inter-community problems or suspicion that was there. But by this violence, I'm afraid that they too have, unfortunately, have to inherit this violence and this problem. I always say that the parents should always give their children a better world to live in, and that should be a world without hatred. But here I find that the parents have, in fact, burdened their children with additional hatred. So that's the first issue. The second issue was about land. There is, as you know, the arable land in Manipur is very less and mainly centered around Imphal Valley. There has always been a suspicion about land. There has always been a problem about land. And since this is the only arable land and all the institutions of Manipur actually came up in this land, people, especially civil servants, wanted to settle in and around this area because it's the only area which has hospitals, which has the airport, where a railway station was going to come, which is the hub of the transport sector. So automatically, a number of people decided to settle in and around Imphal, which put a lot of pressure on the land. And unfortunately, amongst this was a mix of the hill tribes. And that seemed to have created the issue of suspicion again. The third was about the poppy culture or the growth of poppy plants for the say for to convert to narcotics. You're aware that a lot of the poppies grown both in the in the in the Myanmar valley, the Myanmar, as well as in Manipur and Nagaland, actually are processed back in Myanmar. And so a lot of this poppy is taken across, made into heroin, and then re-smuggled all over the world. So it is obvious that since Mr. Biren was trying to prevent or and trying to remove the poppies from being cultivated, he would be a victim or he would be a target by the people who control this because there is a lot of economic gain here, a lot of private gain. So this is the third issue. The fourth was political. Uh, there is a problem. Uh, we keep talking of the Manipur, the mighty dominance or the mighty community being actually, being the largest community in Manipur. It is, but by only a couple of percent points. It is about 52 to 53% of the entire state of Manipur. That means 48% are non-Maitis. So once again, an unscrupulous political leader could put this into the minds of the mighty community or the other community that we will never get political power. We will always have a problem. Maybe this is the right time to call these people foreigners and to remove them. So it the fourth issue, and which is I feel a very important issue, is the problem that is having happening across Manipur, that is in Myanmar.
Myanmar.
As you are aware, over the last 3 years, the Tatmadaw has taken over the country. Tatmadaw is the Burmese army, the Myanmarese army. They have taken over the country, and to and I know for a fact that the PLA, the People's Liberation Army of Manipur, as well as the UNLF of Manipur, which are mighty based groups, are supporting the Tatmadaw, especially in the Kaba Valley that is opposite Manipur. And the Chin or the Zo armies, the Chin Liberation Army or the Kuki Liberation Army, are the ones fighting the Tatmadaw. So they come in direct conflict. Both these communities come in direct conflict. Since no clear line on the ground which actually said this is India and this is Burma, it was only post independence that we created these boundaries based on where the ancient kingdom of Manipur was. So a lot of people have settled all over the place, and almost 95% of all the people have actually come in from Myanmar. It only depends on who came earlier. So these are the main issues, Adi, that have contributed to lighting this fire.
I want to bring about something really interesting about Myanmar, sir, and this is something which is important to actually talk about. When the coup happened, you know, the first year, the influx of migrants and the immigration or the refugees, as you want to term it, the people, simple, was not that heavy, right? Uh, I remember in 21 sometime the government of Manipur was criticized by a lot of the, if I may term them as the liberals, to for pushing back and not letting these guys enter Manipur. Of course, a lot of people did enter, but the initial pushback was there, and a lot of articles were written at that time saying that, oh, this is a shame, humanitarian ground, and this and that. From there to therefore yesterday, when the Myanmar government actually issued a notification to all its citizens, potential citizens within India, saying that don't interfere in all these things, which brings about a very interesting angle that you've said about Myanmar. So there is interference from the other side of the border. There is
There is
probably a want of a certain dominance of a certain area so that they could make a reserve or a training area or a ammunition dump or whatever they want to.
all that is available in Myanmar. They're not going to make a reserve or a training area inside our country. That's not going to
So
happen. Our security forces have absolute dominance along that area, absolute dominance along the Indo-Myanmar border. It is fully policed, I can assure you, and the Assam Rifles is there doing a wonderful job. It's got 20 battalions there. The only problem comes, Adi, is that there is a 16-kilometer zone on both sides, which is called the free move regime, where people don't need visas, people don't need passports, and they cross using headloads to each other's villages to continue the ancient trade that they used to. Mainly because the communities on both sides of the borders are the same. That is something no force can stop unless there's a physical barrier. And there is no physical barrier between India and Myanmar because the communities that will be divided will not permit it on the ground.
mhm.
I had narrated one instance to you, not this time, but probably much earlier, about my talking to a famous leader, a Naga leader, who told me that his entire aim of coming into the insurgency is to unify the Nagas from both sides of the border. So, putting a physical barrier between the between India and Myanmar would be a very difficult task, not only costly in terms of expenditure, but costly in terms of people, because these are communities that don't want to be divided. It's a very difficult task to police this border. Like I said, it's got a free move regime. People on both sides belong to the same community. They cross over with headlords. And using this cover, a lot of insurgents also do that. And therein lies the problem of policing, of continuous vigil, of lack of resources, of a very difficult terrain, and very heavy rainfall. You've got a very heavy secondary jungle, and no kind of electronic equipment actually works in a secondary jungle with this kind of terrain. There are no roads there, there is no cross communication. It is a very difficult task, since I have been the Director General of the Assam Rifle, which is actually tasked to to protect the Indian part of the Indo-Myanmar border. I can tell you that the boys are working in immensely hard, 24 hours of the day. But these are its major problems. There are no communications. The communities are the same. They never tell you that somebody is crossed over. Taking advantage of the communities, the insurgent groups operate. And taking advantage of all this is the unscrupulous politicians who use Myanmar and who use India as points from where they can make more money. This is the disturbing issue, Adi. And this is the problem why these communities are suspicious of each other. You don't know on whose side who is, and whose side should you take.
Mm.
Should you take the sides of the PLA or the UNLF, who are still at war with India because they haven't accepted the accession of the Kingdom of Manipur to India? Or should you take the sides of the Chinzo armies, the KLA, the CNA, the ALA, who ethnically belong to the same tribes as those who occupy Mizoram? Mizoram is the most peaceful state in the country,
Yes.
but they are from the same ethnic stock as the Kukis, the Chinzos. So for them, these are their kith and kin with whom they
Mm.
have lived for 5,000, 6,000 years. Unless we understand the sensitivity of these tribes towards their own tribal culture, we will never be able to understand what drives the Northeast and where the problems lie and how the problems have to be unraveled, Adi. Like an onion, each problem has to be unraveled. There's no single solution.
Wow.
What I have told you is just a microasm of what actually is there. And all that requires sensitivity. It requires a great deal of thought. It requires a great deal of study to really understand why this violence is there and why it continues and how difficult it is. And why we cannot find scapegoats. And why it is important that we must not burden our young with the suspicion and the hatred of the past, which is not happening. I remember meeting a young Manipuri a couple of days back, and she was a young girl, and I spoke to her, and she was from Churachandpur. I said, "How are your parents?" She said, "Sir, they've gone away. They are living in Delhi. They're okay, but our house is destroyed." I said, "What do you feel?" She says, "I'm devastated, sir. Everyone was my friend, everyone was my relative. So, if this violence is to continue and create a barrier, how will Manipur come back? Why can't unscrupulous politicians look at this issue before they start lighting fires? It's easy, Adi, to place a blame on a security force like the Assam Rifles,
Mm. Mhm.
because the Assam Rifles is a difficult task. Who does it identify? How does it identify? The first issue when I told you was the last time we talked was the violence must stop. 70 plus, 100 plus columns every day on the road. 48, 49 protecting the Mighty communities, 51 protecting the Kuki communities to try and stop this violence. And yet the violence continues. Yesterday, I was sent a video talking about, the killing of a young Manipuri girl, which was absolutely false. It was a execution by a force in Myanmar in the in Tamu, and I have the proof for it. But it is being circulated as a mighty killing of a cookie or a cookie killing a mighty, depending on which side you are. And I have been given sent this by somebody in Australia. So you can imagine how it links up to everything in our that the country stands for. And here we are talking about, but these are the kind of disinformation that is flowing from across Manipur. Disinformation which is costing India its name, which is extremely bad because it becomes an inter-religious problem. We must understand that because people look similar, every issue can't be true. So I would appeal to the Manipuris, if you're watching my show, I would appeal to the people of India if you're watching. Please don't fall to false narratives. This is our country. We must protect it. We must protect its name. And we must protect our way of life. But we can't sit down and say so and this is to blame.
It's that, I mean, I want to see, the problem with India today is that everybody becomes an expert on everything, and everybody's a Manipur expert nowadays. So they know everything about all communities. They know everything about, whose grandfather it was that set up a house where. Everything is known by everyone, and that's the problem. Everybody just talks for the sense of a certain sense of superiority online, and ends up actually creating a narrative which is like this. I mean, the video is shocking. I did see that video, and I didn't really think that it could be, honestly. I'll confess here, sir. I didn't think it was a video. I thought it was a video of the region and of this particular sense of violence. I didn't think it was from somewhere else at all. It didn't come to my mind.
In
And here,
December 2022, yes, this is what happened.
here I am sitting so far away. Imagine somebody is sitting over there and going through a video like this, will get enraged. So this is a problem, and there were loads of Manipuri friends who actually came and watched the previous video. I'd urge all of you guys. I mean, fair enough, you've got a video. Just think, do a little research. There's a lot of ways of getting the information correctly. This has been happening all over the country. The battle of narratives. We call it the anti-India narratives. It's happening all over the country, and they will find these fault lines. So let's not become a fault line on our own.
Absolutely. I appeal, actually, my appeal is, from a soldier who has fought there, who has lost his own soldiers, who has fought for the integrity of our land, that this is not the time to do this. This is not the time to fight each other. We have, as it is, such a challenging year ahead. We have, as it is, the Chinese on our borders. We have, as it is, the PLA who's seeking to take our Arunachal Pradesh and a part of Ladakh. Why can't we understand this power play and the kind of false narratives that can be created?
Let's talk about the Assam rifles, and that's something which I find honestly very distressing. It's they've been accused of protecting one side, and I've seen all sides of the story. I've seen stuff which is, oh, they are also involved in drug dealing. Oh, they are also involved in smuggling. Oh, they're only cookie. They're only mate. Oh, यार decide तो कर लो किसको blame करना है किसके लिए. So every sort of blame has come on the Assam rifles. Tell us about it, sir.
The Assam Rifles draws its cadre from the complete country. It's a one, it's all India, all caste, right? There is no single community that is dominant there. The officers that are sent to command the force are from the Indian Army, definitely not from the Kuki or the Maiti community, from the complete Indian Army. And 10% of these are the lady officers from the Indian Army, because we also have women soldiers. If it is an all India, all caste force, and if the officers are all India, all caste, how can a force like this get involved with any kind of community? I have been the director general of this wonderful force. It is doing a very, very difficult task, extremely difficult task, which people simply can't understand how difficult it is to police the Northeast. It not only fights the insurgency, because all the police forces in this region are not capable of protecting themselves. It also has to protect the Indo Myanmar border, which is, like I told you, an extremely difficult and complicated task, which again no one understands because of the communities involved, because of the terrain involved, because of the lack of communications involved, and because the most difficult thing to understand here along the Indo Myanmar border is that it's not a live border. It's not treated as an enemy border, because Myanmar is not our enemy. But it is live because there are 50, 60 camps of Indian insurgent groups that are living there unhindered by anybody. The Myanmar army does not have the capability to in any way interfere with these camps. Neither the capability to prevent them nor the capability to police them. So when we are looking at the Myanmar army to help us out, it's impossible. I myself have gone to Myanmar, and I'm absolutely certain in my discussion with the highest of the land there at Naypyidaw that it is impossible for Myanmar to police the insurgents that live there or to prevent them from carrying out their nefarious activities. Secondly, the Myanmar army has taken control of the government. It's fighting 18 to 20 insurgencies. This is not a priority for them. And there are unscrupulous people across the border who are taking advantage of the narcotic smuggling, who are taking advantage of the timber smuggling, who are taking advantage of the weapon smuggling, and taking advantage of the wildlife smuggling. So obviously, there is no single man at hand here. So how can force which is all India, all caste, policed by by commanded by army officers who has laid so much blood there? If you look at the number of Assam rifle soldiers who have shed their blood and laid down their lives for the integrity of that land, you'd be amazed to even feel that someone can point a finger at this force. It has fought shoulder to shoulder with the army. 1962, it has fought in Sri Lanka, it has fought in Kashmir. How can the Assam Rifles get involved in something like this? And at a time like this, when you should understand that the narrative could be coming from China to weaken us, because the Indian army is on the borders in Arunachal, the Assam Rifles has to look after this complete insurgency on its own. And in order to weaken it, what better than to start a narrative blaming this force and making the people of Manipur against this force? We must understand the underlying hand here. We must understand this battle of false narratives. It suits no one, not the Kuki community, not the Maiti
Mhm.
community, to blame a force which is protecting them. And I can tell you, it's a force which has sacrificed so much. It is full of fabulous and wonderful fighting soldiers, officered by the finest of the Indian army. It's very sad. Very sad that no one has come across to give a word actually to say that, look, this force is extremely good. I know for certain, I've been the Director General, that there is no better force than this in the Northeast, and there can never be a force as good as this. And there can never be favoritism because there is no single community there.
Saddens me when I hear something like this, sir. I want to lastly talk about, you mentioned China, and a lot of people have said, no, 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 China is not China. Why would China be interested in Manipur? They're not interested in Manipur. They're interested in weakening you. That's it.
No, but they are interested in Manipur, Adi. I must tell
I
you,
mean, sir,
you go back to the Second World War. The Japanese came in from Kunming
Kunming, yes, sir.
through Myanmar, through Manipur to Nagaland, and then down further. That is the route. That is the route of the Kabau Valley. That is the route that the Japanese took to cut through the creation of the Joe Stilwell Road. Of course, they're interested in Manipur because if we have blocked their access in Arunachal, if we blocked their access in Ladakh, this is an easy access. They'll have no problem getting through Myanmar, and then they come to a land which is totally divided. Of course, they're interested. Of course, it's important.
Wow.
Why can't people understand and read military history to know that this was the most difficult battle? The defeat of the Japanese in Nagaland, in Kohima, was the
Kohima.
turning point of the most difficult battle. The Burmese campaign is known to be more difficult than any European campaign in the Second World War. Means one has to understand history, one has to read the land. That's what I'm saying. You need administrators who are sensitive to the people, sensitive to the land, sensitive to its culture, sensitive to its strategic requirements.
Wow. I didn't
Nobody
think of it in
reads,
that
nobody,
aspect of it, sir.
nobody reads, nobody does anything. And then, as you said, there are these self-appointed specialists.
Oh,
So it's very disheartening, Adi. I'm
absolutely,
glad
sir.
you
And
gave me this opportunity. Normally, I have stopped talking on television because I feel it makes no sense. I don't get, I don't get that I'm able to change anything. But I accepted your request to come for one last time on this because I said that I must give the truth to the people, whatever the truth is, and the way I see it. Please look at the land. Please look at military history. Please look at what China covets before you start blaming forces. This is the force, the Assam Rifles, that's going to fight shoulder to shoulder with the army against the PLA in the Northeast. The Northeast is a coveted territory by China. She wants it. The water of India flows from there.
unlike what a lot of people believe that Brahmaputra gets a lot of its water from Tibet, it does not. It actually
That's the
gets it
problem.
from within India,
Absolutely. 80% of the flow comes from Northeast.
northeast. So people need to understand a little more of this region, sir. I when I said that they might not be interested in Manipur, I meant it militarily. I think you've proven me wrong, right, by that.
I
But
have
having said
studied,
that, the Chinese would still, even if it's Manipur or Orissa, they would find an opportunity
absolutely,
and a fault line.
absolutely,
It is part of their three warfare strategy.
absolutely.
It is what they do. I
So
mean,
I would really appeal to the Manipuri, whether they are the Nagas, the Maithi, or the Kukis, to please know that you're being used, and all that you're doing is weakening your own country, and you lose it if you continue to weaken it, continue to weaken it. No one is going to gain.
absolutely,
I can tell you that in this 40-day problem in Manipur, no one has gained. But the people who've lost are the people who've lost their houses, the people who've lost their homes, the people who've lost their loved ones, and the hatred that has come about in the country.
closing message, sir. I think the only thing I would say is we're all Indians. So
Yes,
you
absolutely.
can call me a Maiti, you can call me a Kuki. You can call
Absolutely.
me a
And
Naga
I
or
would
you
be
can call
very
me.
honored to be called a Maiti. I would be very honored. They're wonderful people.
I mean, you call me anyone. Let's stop the fight. That's all.
Yeah.
Let's stop the fighting. Let's stop the violence. It does not make sense. You have issues. I'm sure you guys have community leaders. You need help. You need other parts of members from other parts of the country to come and mediate. Ask for it. It'll happen in a flash. There are loads and loads of people. Go back to the armed forces, the people who actually know the place, who are nationalistic, who will be unbiased of this
Who
entire
are emotional
situation.
about
Go
this
back to them,
land and who are sensitive to the culture of the people.
get them involved, sort out the problem, and let's get Manipur back on track. And please understand, a lot of people, and from Manipur, I'd like to say this, people who are victims, who are from either community, who are just saying, we don't know what's happening, we are getting this thing. You're as much as part of this country as I am.
And they are
We,
as much to blame if they are forwarding this false narrative.
yes. So
They're
please
as
stop
much
this.
to blame because anyone who gets this narrative should be able to check and see who is to blame. Just as I did when I got it, I said, no, it cannot be from there. I know the language. I know Manipuri. I know I know the Nagamis. I know Naga language. It is not that. It's a Chinzo, Mizo language. It's not from Mizoram either. And yes, after a little bit of checking, I found it.
On that note, sir, I hope we are able to pass a message, even if this message saves two people from doing something that they shouldn't. I'll be
Absolutely.
grateful to God.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Thank you for calling me, Agi. I am
Thank you,
indeed
sir.
honored that you
Jai Hind.
selected me. Jai.